Dude, I love that hoodie, bro.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this hoodie's tight. I couldn't remember what hoodie I had on.
No, you're good. No, I did a review on that one. I don't know, I'll just do like album reviews. I've been kind of doing this thing where there's this book out called 1,001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die. So I'll do like three albums off that book, and then I'll do a personal review in AFI. That album for sure is one of my personal favorites. So I was like, I'm gonna do a review on it. So
Oh yeah, it's like one of the best albums that's ever been made.
mhm.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry, I'm just wrapping up an email. Hold
no,
on.
you're good. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, sorry I didn't see that link. Sometimes when things come over like a couple days before, they just get fucking buried.
No, I've had that issue with like certain guests where I'll email them, and then sometimes it gets buried in like like a different folder or spam or something. And I was like, at one point I sent something out, and it was like 6 days later. I'm like, oh shit! I was like, I'm sorry, the thing got buried. Blah 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 blah. Blah. I was like, oh my god, I hope I didn't miss that opportunity. So
Right.
yeah, hey Ross, thank you so much for being part of my podcast. I really appreciate it. You got Obsessed, Crush number one is currently out. That's your latest release. And you got Force Fest coming May 2nd. You excited about that?
Yeah, we're going on a whole tour
Yeah.
around Dark Force Fest, and we haven't announced it yet, but I'm sure by the time this podcast is out, we'll have announced it. But we're also going to be opening for Orgy on that tour and Red Jumpsuit Apparatus.
Beautiful.
hmm
Tour dates yet? Or are they just kind of keeping in the hush hush?
I think the Red Jumpsuit show's announced. The Orgy one isn't. I think it's getting announced like Monday or Tuesday. So, but yeah, they'll be on May 4th, and then we come back to. I'm from Boulder, so we're playing with Red Jumpsuit here in Boulder. I think that's already announced, but
Oh,
we
yeah,
just haven't announced it on our end yet. I'm trying to like kind of announce all the new shit at once.
you're good. We used to go frequent out there in Denver. I had some family that lived out in the Black Forest. And I mean, we live in Missouri, so we had to trudge through Missouri, Kansas, straight into Colorado. And oh my gosh, that was a tedious drive. So,
Yeah, it's a long drive. So yeah, we had to kind of book a tour like out and back to Dark Force Fest because it was like 30 hours and
hmm,
didn't make a lot of sense to just drive out there just for that. So
that makes sense. So cool.
yeah.
Did they call you up? Like, did Orgy or Red Jumpsuit call you up and go, "Hey, we're going working on this tour. Are you coming along?" Kind of situation.
Yeah, well, I think Orgy was originally going to do like a whole tour,
Mm.
and for whatever reason, they didn't end up doing it. But we were going to go and do that whole tour. And then when that didn't work out, it was kind of like we had to sort of scramble to like fill some dates. But they ended up doing this kind of one-off show because they play Dark Force Fest also on the same day as us. So they kind of ended up doing this one-off show and asked us to join it. And then the red jumpsuit thing is kind of like a friend of a friend. Sort of the singer's like a friend of the guy that's co-producing my new album, so it kind of hooked it up.
Who's co-producing? Is there a new album coming out?
I've been working on what I hope to be a new album for the last like 5 months now. And this guy named Lee Miles is co-producing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you do most of your work.
I do everything from top to bottom. And then this time I decided I would like to see what happened if I brought like someone else in, and that was really good, and that I liked their work. And I've known Lee for a long time. We've worked together a lot over the years, but not on this project. So I kind of just want to see what happened if kind of brought someone else in to sort of like it's like a major league pitcher kind of just needs tweaked sometimes.
Kind of takes a lot of the weight off too, where it feels like okay, at least there's kind of a balance in the sort of workstation. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
There was that too. I realized that for me to get a new record done and also tour was an insane amount of work to do by myself. Just because I know how the first two records went. So, um, yeah, I just felt like maybe, lighten the workload a little bit, help me focus on some more of the creative aspects of it and not get too bogged down with some of the technical stuff.
are you self-releasing it, or are you signed to a label right now?
I haven't signed to a label. I'm kind of scared of record labels. I had a previous project of mine that was kind of in and out of a few major labels, one being like a UMG label called Republic Records. And yeah, those deals, they're not set up for the artist to win.
I agree. I
Hmm.
agree. And then, but you're also kind of at this point where you find a way to kind of balance. You got your content creator as well as your music sales going. I think you found like a solid balance where I think a lot of musicians that are, older musicians, in age wise are trying to find that balance where it's like, you know, find your place on social media as well as making music and able to go on tour. How do you find a way to kind of balance those tiers, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's really hard to do. The content creation thing is uh it's like a necessary evil, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm really amped to do it and I'll get a knock out a bunch, and then other times I'm just like, man, fuck this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it feels like Mickey Mouse,
No,
you
I get
know?
it. Yeah, makes
So it
sense.
feels like Mickey Mouse sometimes, and I sort of like I envy some of these bands that are just like they're just fucking cool and they don't do that shit. Like, like they're just fucking cool. They don't do that. Like AFI doesn't do that shit. Sleep Token doesn't do that shit. I mean, these are huge bands, but
But the thing is, it's weird because I try and find this sort of like I study where it's like certain bands that were they kind of snowballed and then they kind of remained in that status when
hmm.
some bands that kind of went up and then kind of peaked down a little bit, but they're still kind of holding steady.
Yeah.
And then, there's some bands now, especially these independent where we're not signed to a label where we have somebody that's like, you got a guy that's, going to from, selling spots on, ad spots or whatever and going, listen to this, listen to this. Like a lot of times it was pushed in your face or, you had the radio going, listen to this. And even people who buy certain spots on Spotify where it shoves their music into playlists and we're going, look, we're just trying to do what we can here. But I think you found that niche where it's like, and you really nail like a lot. I mean, even with your album Undercover, you nail a lot of those covers. And even my kids listen to the Damn It by the Blink 182 cover. It kills, dude. That is a really good cover, dude.
That damn song.
I know I was gonna ask. I was like,
That fucking thing.
no, it's okay because I've talked with Jay from Origin, not on the podcast, but personally, and he's like that Blue Monday just follows me around. He's like, there's so many other great songs and blah 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 that we've done, but how do you kind of hold on to that where it's like, oh, I'm getting so fucking tired of this song, and but you're still kind of going, look, listen to my other stuff. It's way more creative. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't get too mad about the covers thing. Because one, I don't just cover songs. I like make them kind of my own thing.
Oh, yeah, I
And
agree.
I know there's a lot of people out there. It's like these are just covers, and they don't fucking get it because they're not creatives and they're just idiots. But the reality is that people need entry points to find new music, and we sort of live in like remix culture right now. And I noticed that everything that's really popping outside of like a few like key artists that are really pushing things forward, and sort of kind of like got the luck of the draw on that is there's remixes and interpolations, and nostalgia is like the most addictive drug in
The
the
big
world.
seller right now. It's insane.
Yeah, like we live in such a weird homogenized like cornucopia of everything right now, where it's like I feel like so many like the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, they all had this like these very identifying characteristics about them. I feel like we've ran into an era right now where everything's just kind of like cross fucked together. It's like a million things fucked into this one thing, and there's not like I don't feel like there's like an identifying style, like genre wise, like dress wise, like film wise, just anything about I would say like the last maybe 10 to 12 years really. especially now. It's like been even worse in the last like 5 to 6. And so I think that when you can give people something that is kind of tied to these times that were very identifiable, um, stylistically, culturally, I think that they really like that. And it kind of stirs this sort of feeling in them, because that's what you want is you want somebody to have a feeling about something you do, whether they love it or hate it or makes them happy or sad. It doesn't matter as long as it evokes an emotion. The worst thing is the indifference. If it's indifference, then your project's failing. If people hate it, it's great because it'll drive numbers. If people love it, great because it'll drive numbers. And I think that every time I hear something that I love or hate too, I'm like, if I really hate it, it's probably good. And if I love it, I know it's good.
No, because you're absolutely right. I think that's the best way that you nailed it because it's this weird, I don't know, like because even my kids, I got three daughters and they're all in various ages, and they are taking bits from what I grew up with, clothes wise. I got one daughter wearing, trip pants and, like the old Hot Topic style. And then my oldest daughter's real like kind of like 90s, where there's a lot of Deftones stuff. The youngest one, she's still trying to figure herself out and stuff. So she's kind of going from one artist to another, going, oh, I think I like this. I like this, and trying to find her own identity. But we really are. I mean, even with like the return of like Van's Warp Tour,
Mm.
stuff like that, where you're seeing these sort of nostalgic returns, and even just popular social medias where it's like, here's nostalgia, here's the 2000s, here's the 90s, here's the 80s. It's like this kind of stuff. People still get that sort of dopamine feeling every time they see it, and it's a weird, and then it's even spawning off into the younger generation, and it's like it's fascinating to see it. So
Yeah, it's really something that's driving um, culture, I guess, and pushing things right now is to have this nostalgia. So, yeah, that's kind of why I think the covers work. And it's kind of why I think that a lot of music is having kind of a moment again right now. Because, rock and alternative rock and stuff like that, especially like the heavier side of it and the darker side of it, stuff that gets into being like, goth adjacent and new metal adjacent. And those things had fallen off a lot over the previous years. Since probably like 2010, it's been like a massive decline in that, while there was a rise in things like, EDM, dance music, hip hop, kind of indie pop, bedroom pop, indie girl singing. Um, but we've seen like this massive resurgence recently in like heavier, darker music that is, that pays, bands from that time, but also new bands that pay like homage to, the late 90s and 2000s. And, Sleep Token's a great example. They do a modern thing, obviously, but that singer's voice is like, reminds me of like something I would have heard in like, I don't know, like a new metal band from like the 2000s.
absolutely, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's wild seeing this kind of stuff happen. um Tell me about, did you create Bobcore, or was that just kind of a fan driven type of thing that you?
I coined the term, but I wasn't like, I came up with the Bob Belcher thing. Like somebody just, I posted that damn it thing, the Damn It After Dark cover on TikTok. A few days later, somebody made a comment about it. Maybe it was a couple months later, but they made a comment like, this sounds like Bob Belcher. And I was like, what an asshole thing to say. But it was kind of funny. So
No.
I just posted a little video of like the band playing live and like put that audio over it. And like, I just wrote like Bobcore on
Mm.
it. And, that was the first thing I'd ever, I had videos that get like, maybe a couple thousand views at the most. That was the first thing. I remember that. I was on like a subway in New York and I just needed something to post that day. I just posted that and like went about my day. And I like 6 or 7 hours later, I opened up TikTok and look, and I had like,
Well,
300,000 or 400,000 views on that thing already. And I was like, holy shit. And I like went to my Spotify and there was like, usually no one listened to my shit. So it was usually like 3 or 4 people listening at a time. And I could see that like 80 or 90 people were listening at once. I was like, wow. And then it just kind of grew. I embraced it. I put the apron on stage and put a couple of videos of that, and those got like millions of views. And I was like, wow, another entry point.
Hmm.
for people to find this stuff. Like I had the covers thing going, and that was kind of an entry point. But then this thing where it's like this cover and this nostalgia, and then this comparison to like the most popular show in America, and like it made this meme that worked for me because the fact of the matter is like memes drive culture. Because when I think about marketing a product, it's not like the music video that's going to work for the band or the commercial that's going to work for the brand. It's like the memes that people build out of them and they share them around. It's like Pentagram. You've seen
Oh, yeah,
Pentagram
I've
recently?
experienced that, but go ahead, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, the resurgence with Bobby looking like, a corpse on stage. It's like the shareability of anything. So anytime that I think, an artist is somebody's posting something, it's like think about how many people could share it versus how much reach it will get, because the sharing will actually get the reach for you. You don't have to get the reach on your own. You just need to get, I don't know, I hate talking about marketing. Yeah.
No, you're fine. No, because you're bringing in eyeballs. You're bringing in because you got to get capture people's attention. And one of the weirdest things that I experienced, which I think it's a video. I think it hit 1.9 million, and it was a clip that I posted on my Instagram, and I was me and my wife were watching an O.J. Simpson documentary on Netflix, and one of the guys who was part of the lawyer team, he analogized, that's the way he said it, um, the OJ trial to and I'm using his words, a big ass bowl of spaghetti. And there's a roach in this big ass bowl of spaghetti. Do you throw the spaghetti out or do you eat the spaghetti? Like he goes in this whole thing, and even like the clip itself, they they edited in a big ass bowl of spaghetti with sauce and a roach on it. So I thought it was hilarious. I was like, what the? So I posted the clip on my Instagram, and it drew so many people just to my podcast. It's the weirdest thing. You got it again, like you said, an entry point is the best way to put it, where it's like you just got to capture people, and then they go, oh, what else does this person have? And then it just spawns into this whole thing. And
Exactly. I think of it like casting nets. Like you have levels of tiers of content. Like one is just like, yeah, it's quick, attention grabbing. It casts a huge net, and then you kind of funnel it down from there. Like you have the more personalized stuff, and then it gets down to where it's like I have a fucking Patreon where like, I'll live stream me in the studio. Like, that's for like the super like, the super like dead wave heads. But
let's go ahead and get into the music.
mm,
Tell me about, did you grow up in Colorado?
yeah.
Okay. So tell me about growing up in Colorado. Tell me about your experience getting into music.
I grew up in a little town called Loveland, Colorado. Not the ski area; it's a different one up north. And there's like fuck all to do up there when you're a kid growing up, except like smoke weed and listen to music. And then where and I'm this is like the late '90s, early 2000s,
Yeah.
so
I
like
was out there around the time, so I blame
yeah.
you.
I mean, I'm 40, so it's like
Yeah, I'm
um,
39, so we're all in the same boat.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, just listen to a lot of music and I had a guitar, but I it's kind of like learn Metallica songs and shit like that. I never really took it very serious. And then I got out of high school and some friend of mine was like, I'm gonna buy this drum kit. And like we met this other kid that played guitar and it was like, all right, well like let's like start a band so that we can like, play house parties and smoke weed and shit. And so we started this band called Crutch and I actually played bass in that band and sang because we couldn't find a bass player, so we had another guitarist who's better than me. So I was like, well, I'll just play bass. And I was such a terrible singer that we got a different singer who was actually good. um, and I didn't sing ever again from that time period until I started the Dead on a Sunday thing. But yeah, I just spent a long time kind of in and out of bands and at different levels of local success and stuff. And always loved music, always was interested in different styles of music. My first band was like very thrash metal, and I was in like a new metal band. I was in like a post hardcore band. You know, music interests me, not so much the genre or style. It's sort of like I get bored quickly. Routine routines bore me. So when I find that like a certain genre feels too routine, um, I get really bored with it sonically. I get interested in different playing styles and different sonic things. And later as I became a record producer and I got into electronic music and I produced electronic music under an alias for a long time. That was quite successful, but it sort of kind of just had this longing urge in me to get back to playing kind of darker and heavier and just kind of rock music again. And I just got this wild hair in my ass one day that I was like, maybe I'll just try singing again. And here we are.
And then what kind of drew the inspiration? Because you kind of went from genre to genre. What was your sort of entry point in going, okay, this sort of goth dark wave? What were you listening to? And what was like, this feels right. This feels like my path right now at this point is this.
Yeah, I didn't want to, I didn't like this goth, this goth thing. So I made I spent some time and I recorded a bunch of songs and it ended up being called Strange Days, the record, the first Dead on Sunday record. Um, and I sat on that record for a while till I put it out, maybe like a year. I like put out some singles, but there was this one song in there called Stay, and I thought it was like something. I was like, man, this could like, I know the music director over here at like the local alternative radio station called KTCL, and I was like, man, I should send this to him. I bet maybe they could play this on the radio. This feels like because it kind of feels like it feels like a killer song to me a little bit, and I sent it to him and he was like, wrote me back. He's like, man, I gotta be honest with you. Like, this stuff's not going to work on KTCL. It's the vocal. And I was like, oh, of course it is. And he's like, well, not that the singing's bad or anything. He was like, it just, kind of this like sort of Bauhaus, like goth style isn't in. And I was like, goth? What the fuck? Like, I was offended by it. I was like, fuck you. Like, I'm not a goth singer. Like, I'm not goth. Like, is there anything more goth to say than like, I'm not goth? Like, so I immediately was upset about that, and I wrote a bunch of other songs and recorded a bunch of other songs, and like I have some songs that'll never come out, but they're so far away from that style of singing at all because I was like I have to prove to myself that I'm not that now, like because I was like I'm worried that I am that, um, and I am. I'm like I have a low. I'm a baritone singer. I can sing really low. I have a goth adjacent type of vocal that we're used to from music of kind of the 90s, and that's just who I am. And as things started to grow on TikTok for me when I put like the Damn It cover out and I messed around with like some of the other covers, like, oh, this dark wave thing's interesting because I was interested in it because I made the Damn It thing. I was like, these sounds are interesting, these synths, and then like I kind of this cool guitar chorus effect I used a lot, and this vocal processing I do on the production was interesting to me. And it sort of fell into that further and further. And people more and more started to kind of like combine what I'm doing with like, just I guess they would compare me to this like goth sort of subculture. And I just, much like the Bobcore thing, I eventually was just like, fuck it, man. Let's just embrace this goth thing, and I can use it to market, cast a wider net, and just have another entry point to, because I don't really give a fuck about anything else besides getting like-minded people in the door that like the music, and I'm like building a community.
Sure. No, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started like making music and stuff like that, what was your okay, so you did bass and then did a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
What was I'm a big gear person, so kind of what was your your digital audio workshop? What'd you start using and did it change through time or did you just kind of stick with your own software?
Man, we started with like this, like get these like Boss digital recorders.
Yeah,
Actually, it started with a 4-track tape thing. And then
yeah,
I got like this Boss digital recorder. It took like these hard discs,
yeah.
and I think you had like 16 tracks, and you could put effects and stuff, and it was fucking cool. Like I actually made some demos. I was like, this is sick. Um, and then it was like Cakewalk, for PC because it was easy. But then it was in like 2007, I put together a band called Life and Electric. And this is the first time I ever had finally made, and you can find that project on the internet,
Right.
probably on like SoundCloud or maybe something. It was the first time I'd been a part of a project I actually really liked. And so we made some really shitty demos and I got into Pro Tools.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm going to record this band. Because my previous band, we worked with this guy named Eric Greedy. He did like the first and second like Hurt record. I don't know if you remember Hurt.
Of course. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so he kind of taught us a bunch of things about how to arrange, like how this is how you arrange a song. This is how you arrange a production. This is how you record. Like we got to really see it. And I was like he like stayed in my house with me for like 3 weeks. So I got to really see his workflow and he really showed me how to do things. And that's was really my first entry into like really not just recording stuff and like making a song, but actually like producing a song and understanding what goes into like putting these things together and how to properly record it and when to add things and when to take them out. So I started recording our band with Pro Tools and that's sort of when my whole production thing really began. And later it moved into Ableton when I got into electronic music and I'm still in Ableton now. I love Ableton. I use Pro Tools also out of necessity because if I go to like a recording studio to do something, they'll want it in a Pro Tools session. So I just have to know how to like get it back out of that. But
Got
yeah, I do all my sound design and sequencing in Ableton, and for the longest time, I would record my vocals in Pro Tools because it's sort of more intuitive for recording live stuff than Ableton is. But as Ableton advanced and started to give you like track lanes and things like that, and made comping and things easier. Not that I really comp very much, but yeah, I just kind of moved all into Ableton to whereas now, I just went and recorded the first Dead on a Sunday stuff ever done outside of my own studio at a place down in El Paso, called Sonic Ranch, and that was all in Pro Tools, and I brought it back and got it all out of Pro Tools and put it in Ableton, so I could like now I can do like my whole thing that I like to do, which is kind of sound design it. So.
how do you kind of take everything that's studio recorded and kind of translate it into stage? You got, or like touring musicians, and you
Mhm.
use like, backtracks or stuff or anything like that. How do you transfer that from recording?
Yeah, yeah. I really, most live shows are fairly track heavy now. When I was growing up in the early 2000s, man, if you had that much track in your stuff, you were crucified.
I know, no,
Oh, you couldn't have a backup vocal on a
yeah.
track. You would be shot on stage. Like,
From I had a desktop and I would play backtracks there, and people are just so confused. I'm like, you don't even know this is the future. Like I was
oh,
yelling,
people are like, you're not a real artist.
right? Oh God, did I hear that? Yeah,
Yeah.
continue. Go ahead. So,
It's yeah, but it's just, I think that like so when dance music got popular, that is sort of what ushered into that all being okay. Because then it was like, what are you gonna go like? How you gonna perform dubstep? You gotta just that's just a DJ. And so people go show up at fucking like a 20,000 person venue and see these dance festivals and just watch DJs spin records. So it sort of made it easier for society to accept when rock came back that people were going to be using tracks and you didn't have to have, especially at my level, I can't afford to bring someone to play every single fucking instruments in a song. You know, backup singers and like 4 synthesizer parts and like in my first record I would have like 5 guitars going at once, like different sections. And it was like that didn't make any fucking sense. Even when at first I had 2 guys in the live band, it still was like too much to play. So now I have it leaned down. Actually, on this tour, I have it so leaned down. I sing and play guitar. I bring a drummer. That's it.
that's cool.
We had another guitarist for a while. He got married, decided tour life isn't for him. Because I get it, it's grueling.
It
So, we'll get another live guitarist by the fall, and probably like a live bassist too. That's sort of my next move. But yeah, right now it's like synths, backup vocals, I call them auxiliary guitars. It's anything that's not a main guitar part. And bass are on a track, and then the lead vocal, the drums, and any of like the main guitar stuff is live.
Yeah. So like a 21 Pilot type situation where you got
Yeah, that's 21 Pilots is a great example, and that's sort of where I, because I hired my drummer, my live drummer, and he's kind of my production manager and LD. We design he designs a lighting show that is automated completely inside of Ableton to run our lights to the track. Um, so he plays to a click, and it's super tight because we have all the fills and stuff with the lights are going off at the appropriate times. But it was sort of like at first, like I don't know, like we should have more people, and it was like but 21 Pilots, like they'll go play a 20,000 person arena. I've seen it, and it's just the drummer and the singer, and the singer's not even playing anything most of the time. He's just singing.
singing, yeah.
No one gives a shit.
That's what blew my mind. Like I was like, because when I started out, keyboard or computer keyboard, synthesizers, just that whole thing, and I'm just like, dude, you got 21 Pilots, drummer,
Mhm.
backtracks, one singer.
Mhm.
It's just like in stadiums. I'm just like, how is this? I'm like, how is this happening? Like it's
Well, because those songs were that good.
so amazing. They're so I'm stupid catchy is probably the best way to describe it.
There it is.
Good. So good.
Yeah, that Blurry Face record was definitely like kind of the pinnacle of what they were doing, and every song on that is like, and I'm not a huge 21 Pilots fan, but I
No,
mean, I can say that that
every
record is like, I can listen to that record front to back and be like, wow, like every song's good.
mm-hmm,
Every song's good.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What other albums really drew your influence? Like what albums can you listen to and go, I can listen to every track on this album?
Oh, so many. I'm an albums consumer guy. I don't like the streaming era for the fact of that, you know, and this is such an old like fart thing to say, but it's
I'm
like
right there
that
with
back in my fucking day. But back in my day, it's like like a saved up my allowance money or mowed neighbors' lawns like for a whole month to get $20. It's funny, CDs always stayed the same price.
the same price.
$20 to go buy like what like the Typo Negative Bloody Kisses CD, and then like that's how I got a Typo Negative. Like I got that CD because I knew that Black Number One was on, and I love that song. But then it's like you got that CD. I'm not gonna be able to get another CD for another fucking month.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is all I got that's new to listen
Entertainment.
to. Yeah, and that thing's with me, and I would know every single drum hit, every vocal lick, every inflection that's on that thing. I know every song because I just be out there mowing the lawn, pissed off, like listening to that CD, and I miss that about the connection people have with music now. So I a lot of front to back CDs for me. Nine Inch Nails, Downward Spiral, um, Typo Negative, Bloody Kisses, October Rust. Obviously, AFI Sing the Sorrow is a big one. Incubus, Make Yourself was a
Oh,
huge.
really? Oh my God. I can
Yeah,
preach
such
about
a great
yeah,
record, such
such a
an influential record for me. Um, there was a Machine Head album called The
yep.
Burning Red
Mhm.
that I loved when I was a kid. That was something that I just had on repeat. Slipknot's first record, incredible. I remember the day that thing came out. Like I probably listened to just that for like 3 months straight.
One of those albums that like because it was funny that I had my sister was dating somebody who worked in a record shop, and he just would have these tapes. I think one was Apartment 26, another one was the Slipknot where it was like a two side where it was like one song here, another song on the other side of a cassette. And I was listening to that and going, this is like sounds like it's from another planet. Like I had no I like and I was listening to Corn and stuff like that, and I knew that they were working with Ross Robinson, but I was like, this is just something else. I have no idea. Like it's intense, it's angry, it's wild. I was like, this is crazy. I love
So, so we heard Slipknot in my band before it came out. Before like so they were on Ozfest
it.
and they had like there was like this promo tape that was out. It was like a VHS of them playing, and they hadn't put out the album yet. But my friend was really good friends with this guy named Bobby Tongs, who was like the videographer for Pantera.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this was huge for us. We're like
Was that
Pantera.
the oh, was it the tapes from hell or the
Yeah,
videos?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Y-
used to watch those.
Yep. Vulgar videos.
Yes, I used to watch those religiously.
Oh yeah, yeah, vulgar videos. So
Yeah.
he filmed all those. So he comes into town and he's watches my band play. We had like a show at this place in Fort Collins, and we're hanging out. We're like 18-year-old kids. We're like, this guy's so cool because he's, works with Pantera. Like he's gonna show the band our stuff. We're gonna be huge. But he's like, you guys want to see some real music? And he busts out this VHS and he puts it in, and it was Slipknot playing live at Ozfest. It blew my fucking mind. I've never, and like we watched that VHS on repeat all night until like 6 in the morning. We just kept watching it, watching it, watching it. We're just like, this is the most incredible thing we've ever heard. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
And that shit changed my life. Now fast forward, um, 12 years from then or so. I'm in a rehearsal studio with Sean from Slipknot Clown. We're good friends. He's producing my band.
Crazy. Which band was that when I was producing?
It was a band called Boys. It was like Zeppelin meets the Kills with with like female Robert Plant type
Okay.
vocal. Our
Yeah.
singer unfortunately passed away. So that band never ended up going anywhere. But yeah, you can find it on the internet on YouTube. There's some stuff of us playing live. Great band, great singer. Yeah, cool stuff.
Great. Cool,
Hmm.
man. Tell me about your sort of schedule when it comes to songwriting. Are you get behind a guitar, piano, and then write lyrics? Like kind of tell me how do you kind of pull it together?
Always different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like I don't I'm interested in processes, but routines of processes bore me. So it can't always start with the acoustic or it can't always start with the lyric. Sometimes a drum beat, sometimes a voice memo on a phone. Sometimes I make a whole track and then write a vocal. Sometimes I write a whole vocal and then make a track. Um, and sometimes I don't make anything for months.
Get
um,
that writer's block situation. Do you, I mean, where do you usually find your inspiration? Just anywhere?
yeah, I guess just not like I'll creativity for me kind of comes in waves. And it's really depleting when I sit around and try to force it and nothing happens. So it's almost like I've got to it's like this spark kind of gets ignited and then I'll like go in and I'll write 20 songs in like a 3 or 4 week period. I'll just boom, 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 just knock them out. And then I'll have them all lined up and then I'll be like, okay, now it's time to like pick some of these and focus on them. And, the work doesn't stop because you wrote the song. The work only stops when, you've decided to let the song either, go into the world or go die. So,
Tell me about the first time taking on a Sunday onto stage. Tell me about that first show experience and everything like that. Tell me, how you was it, were you opening for anybody? Tell me about that whole
it's
situation.
terrifying. We played at a place called Moe's Barbecue. It was in October of 21.
Right after COVID.
Yeah, yeah, right after COVID, and it's a lot of people were there because it was all my like I got all my friends to go. Got to go to this, but I didn't sing live on stage in
Years.
20 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna get up there and do it. So yeah, rehearsed like a lot for it. I actually think it went pretty good. The band, with Dead on Sunday's first record is there's a lot of more like kind of emo punk influence in that. A lot more. It's a lot more like my chem sounding than the band has ended up being. Um, so the set was a lot more kind of in that direction. But which happens. I mean, like I said, I get bored with things, and also my favorite artists they change over time, and I respect that about artists. So
What's one kind of misconception people think about, being an independent musician?
that there's no money in it unless you're signed.
Hmm.
It's actually better to be independent. You'll actually if you actually have fans, they actually go to your shows, they actually buy your merch. And I'm not just talking about in your own city. I'm talking about all over in cities. If you can get something to react and people talk about it and they show up for it, you will do much better financially than if you're on a label. If you're on a label, they'll give you a bunch of money up front and they'll pay for a bunch of things. But most of the guys that I know that are seemingly doing things right now, like they're seemingly on the come up and they're blowing up, they're working day jobs when they go home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're not making money on tour because they're on a 360 deal. Which, if anybody doesn't know what a 360 deal is, it's when a label gets half of all of your merch earnings and your tour earnings. Um, and that's sort of like, so they're already taking all the money from the record because you're never going to be able to pay back the advance out of your royalties unless you have a massive hit. But that whole system's gamed, so you never do pay it back because they'll keep advancing and keeping you locked in. And then they're taking, you sell a t-shirt for $30, it costs $10 to make the shirt. That's a $20 profit. The label's coming in taking $10 of that right there. And
Yep.
that's the math on that. So then, you got, if you got a band out on tour and they're making, even if you're doing well and you're making $4,000 a night off merchandise, the label's taking half of it. So that's 2 grand. Say you're paying a sound guy, that's another $200. Say you're paying a tour manager, that's another $200. Say you're paying the merch worker, that's another 100, $200. You got gas, that's another $200. You got your hotels, that's another, say you got 7 people on the road with you, that's another $600. I mean, you could see where this is going. There's no fucking money,
Oh, absolutely. No, I
you
agree.
know. Mm-hmm.
I hear it all the time. Everybody that I've talked to, it's like, you know, touring, it's financially draining, physically draining, mentally draining at times. And it's like if you can if as an independent, if you can find a way to make it all work, bless you. But if you're going with a record label, you're just continuously just kind of in this endless loop of
Yeah, incurring
money.
debt.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
incurring debt at like basically the worst interest rate you could possibly have because the label signs you. They take 85% on a good deal. They take 85% of the royalty. They leave you with 15, and out of your 15 has to pay back all the advance money they give you. That's the tour support. That's half the marketing. That's the money to record the record. That's any advance they gave you to live on. Um, and that's why, a big reason why I'm independent. And then as you asked earlier about the touring thing, that's also why we run it lean. Like we go out, we have a sound guy. I hire a local merch person every night. It's me and the drummer right now. Usually there was another guy before, but we're talking about 4 people in a van that I own, and I haven't lost money on tour.
Good. Is this your first sort of long tour, or have you been on a long tour before what you're doing right now?
Yeah, in 2023 we did like a 30 some date tour. And it went well. It was crazy, and we've always headlined. Because nobody, there's we, I don't- everything's done in house. There's no like handouts or help or anything. So these couple shows coming up here in the next month where we open for other artists, it's interesting because I'm like we've only headlined.
That's awesome. And now it feels like, I mean, does that feel good where it's kind of like, you kind of get in, get your show done, and then just kind of hang out and watch all the other acts, or does it feel like,
It is nice. It
okay,
that is the one thing that I do miss is like it's like when you headline and you run a crew as lean as ours and you bring as much stage production as we do, it's nonstop work I
yeah,
mean, we wake up in the morning, you drive to that venue and it's just work until it's done. And before the show, it's not loose. There's not like that time to hang out and chat it up and have some drinks. It's like I don't drink before sets. I rarely drink on tour. Like I'm super anal about my voice because people pay money to come see this. I don't want it to suck.
yeah, you don't want it to do like a shitty show where it's like you had a rough time on tour and had one too many free drinks, because venues like to throw out drink tokens all the time. And then it's like, you're sloppy on stage vocally and musically, and people are like, "Fuck, I just paid, you know, $30 or whatever, how much dollars to see you." And all of a sudden you're fumbling around and whatever. And I
Oh yeah, yeah. To pull that off, your songs better be really fucking good.
right. Do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions or anything like that?
um,
Vocal
I,
warm-ups and shit like
I
that.
always I always warm up. Um, I use a nebulizer. It's like a breathing thing that like I just put saline in it, kind of like,
Cool.
and yeah, I just try not to talk a lot. Um, yeah, I don't ritualize too much stuff. After the show, I go to the merch booth every night, shake every hand until everyone's out of that venue. Like I said, I'm building core following, trying to build community, and trying to meet the people that support the project, and like people have a lot of choices where to spend their money, where to spend their time. If they're coming out to a show of ours and choosing to buy our merch and spend their time there, um, I really appreciate that. So.
Are you used to just living in a high altitude that traveling in some of these flatlands, does it affect your sinuses and shit like that and kind of deal with the pressure of
Like having grown up in Colorado, yeah, nothing phases me.
okay.
It's super dry here and it's high altitude here, so everywhere else is like can run a marathon.
That's good because anytime that I travel, I live in Missouri, so everything's all flat and sometimes hilly and stuff. Like my everything just goes whoop, and it's just like get a big old headache and crap like that. I can see how something like that would just be like, you're getting headaches and you got to use the nebulizer just to kind of clear everything out. I can see that.
Yeah, the nebulizer is definitely helps me with the climate changes will they'll dry me out and then my body will produce too much mucus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll end up getting some kind of like postnasal drip, which I'll end up getting sick on tour from.
Mm-hmm.
So the nebulizer, um, it really helps minimize that because it constantly keeps those tissues hydrated. And that way, I noticed it that I've had a bad problem with postnasal drip my whole life. And I realized once I started correctly using a nebulizer that my postnasal drip pretty much went completely away. I just had to make sure I use it every day.
Yeah. What's your go-to in your pack when you go on tour? What's the few things that you need to get by being on tour? Like maybe
Obviously,
a
need my
granola bar or drink that.
oh yeah, obviously my iPhone. Um, yeah, earplugs and earbuds. My own pillow has to come with me on
Yep,
tour.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I can't sleep on a different pillow every night. My neck is can't handle that. Um, we drink a crazy amount of sparkling water.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and we were drinking a crazy amount of Topo Chico for a long time until I found out how terrible Topo Chico actually is.
It's so good though, man. It's the crispest. Like the Mexicans know how to make a great soda. It's crazy.
You know that I think it's Coca-Cola that actually owns Topo Chico now.
Yeah, yeah.
But
They're a Coca-Cola, but yeah, it tastes way better. Not or
yeah, it's so good. We call it barf fuel because we do this thing where we burp and we say barf at the same time. So it's like barf, and like it becomes this contest in the van. And then once you like get really good at barf, you can move on to other things like double syllables like vomit. Like that's
yeah,
a good one.
that's a good
But
one.
that one has so much carbonation. It's like you can just get the best. Like
The alphabet.
yeah, you could burp the whole alphabet. But yeah, we've had to lay off Topo Chico because it's got high PFAs. So now we're on like Whole Foods runs. There's always a Whole Foods run. We like go to Whole Foods, stock up on all the shit, have all like the snacks and like the mountain spring water and all that stuff. We're super anal about the drinking water. Venues probably hate it. We're like, it can't be purified. It has to be like natural spring water. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
get that. What is probably the most memorable show for better or for worse? Fan
Um,
interactions, technical, whatever comes.
I have two. I'll do the best and the worst.
Okay.
My favorite so far was the first when we played Denver in 2023. It was our first headlining show in a big venue, and it was a 500 person room, 600 person room at the Bluebird Theater, and it was packed. And I just remember how many people came for the band, and they were singing the songs, and they had their phones out at one part while I was singing the song, and I had my eyes closed. And I opened my eyes, and everybody in the venue had their phone out, and they were moving it side to side. And I was like, "Holy shit! experienced that from the stage before. Made my eyes water up.
Ooh.
So that was a magical evening. Our first tour as a band, we played. It's like a little 4 show run, and the last show on the tour was in Lawrence, Kansas.
Ooh.
And not that it was a bad show. The show was fine. I used to let the venues book local bands, and I don't really do this anymore because of this one reason. Because the local band showed up, and the guitarist was so pissed drunk and
God.
such a prick. He spent the entire night trying to fight everybody in my band, including
Oh,
myself. And the venue would not kick because he was like in tight with the venue owner. He was like their fucking homie that was on the bill, and they would not kick him out to the point where I had to get like, I basically had to like, was like, look, I'm going to cancel the show and call the cops if you don't get the guy out. And like, I let his band play and everything. But then I was like, now he has to go because he's still trying to do it. He's like pounding on our van and like, he's in my face in front of like, I got like all these people there to see us and this dude's in my face. And it's like, it's like, I was like, God, I want to hit this guy so bad, but I'm not going to, not in front of these people. And it's just like, God, just biting my tongue. It was awful.
and it's like, was it like, the local redneck type situation?
Oh, he was like the local redneck fuckbag. But he was such like, I'm not a big guy either. So, but he was a short guy too. He's like around my height, and he was just this puny dude. And I remember just thinking in my mind, like, God, this guy he's got to have a gun on him, or he's like the mayor's son or something, because the confidence that's coming off this guy, like he was in 3 of our faces at once by himself with no, it's like, dude, like the confidence this guy had, it was scary because you're like, what does this guy know? Like,
What is on, right?
yeah, he could like, does he pull out a gun and shoot us? Do I call the cops? And next thing I'm in jail because he's like the police chief's son. Like, who is this guy? Come to find out, he was just some local drunk asshole. But
That's a fucking nightmare, dude.
that's
Like,
the scary thing about on tour is like,
yeah,
there's all these crazy people
unpredictable.
in all these places. You don't know what they know. You don't know what they have going on. You have to be super careful. And, anytime we get in situations where there is confrontation, we try to, we try to get away from it as quickly as possible. Cause, I'm not trying to get, not trying to get like my throat slit on tour.
I can't sing with my throat slit.
Oh
Gee,
yeah, to try to get knifed on stage. But I've had people make threats. When I was first putting the covers out, people were so mad about the Damn It cover. I had several people message me and tell me they were going to come to whatever city and whatever show I'm playing. Like, you're coming to Houston, I'll be there to kick your ass.
the internet is a weird,
It's like
it's a
why?
place how people's emotions just come out. And it's over the smallest stuff, like just a cover song or something like that. It's just like, ha, it, it's just a cover song.
Oh,
That's
people are so fucking bored. Like, imagine you're so bored, or you're so upset with your life that you're just like mad about these things.
damn it, you just did a bad cover, damn it. Like, it's just like,
Oh, it's wild to me. I mean, these are clearly people that are like very mentally unstable that are acting that way. But
unfortunately, that's the internet's wide open to anybody and everybody who works the mentally unstable, the mentally unwell, even older generation where they're don't understand the young generation, and you're just like, oh my gosh.
what's really funny
What?
about it is like some of the biggest trolls I've ever had on the internet ended up being like the coolest people. Like,
Mhm.
there's this one dude that he was just so in my ass over like goth, like just like him and I like, and I'll feed the trolls because it helps the marketing. So I'm like kind of back and forth with this guy, and he's just being just the way he's being. I'm just like, oh God, man, this guy's insufferable. Um, but I told him, I said, you seem like a cool dude. I was like, you should come to our show and I'll put you on the guest list. And months went by. This was months before we played the show. And homie showed up, and he was an awesome dude, and he had my hoodie on, and now we talk all the time.
So awesome, dude. That's yeah.
Yeah.
I love like certain situations where the guy's just fucking with you. There's people where you're like, oh, he's just trolling. But then there's those where you're just like, oh, okay, I got to keep you on that other side where you're not quite well. But yeah, I love dealing with
It's true. There's trolling, and then there's like the definitely very unwell side of it too.
absolutely. Do you have a piece of dream gear that you would love to have?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't, I mean, I love building touring rigs.
Hmm.
We've built my touring rig like 10 times over. Like we keep revamping it every
Yeah.
time. So yeah, my gear list is constantly changing. But um, when I went to Sonic Ranch, they have this amplifier there that I love, and it is a Marshall Super Lead um, Splon modded head. But this isn't just a Splon modded head. This was Jerry Finn's Splon modded Marshall, and Jerry Finn producing the Sorrow by AFI.
Mhm.
That guitar tone and that record is one of my favorite guitar tones of all time. And I remember being a kid and reading, and Jade said, "Well, yeah, we use these Splon modded Marshalls that Jerry Finn had." Well, so the exact amp, like not just the model of it, but the amp that's on Sing the Sorrow, is sitting at Sonic Ranch. So we recorded a bunch for the new record on it. Obviously, I had to. It's sitting there. So yeah, that's like a dream piece of gear and a weird serendipitous kind of thing, I guess.
I love those little things where it just kind of comes back around, where it's like, the influences somehow make its way into the music, and that's such a great story, dude.
Oh, it was so random too, because the day that we showed up at Sonic Ranch was the day I saw they had that Marshall head there, and I was told no, that was Jerry Finn's because the guy that owns Sonic Ranch was friends with Jerry Finn, and when he died, he was able to buy some of his estate, so we bought some of his gear. And coincidentally, the same day we went there, I found that out was the 22nd anniversary of Sing the Sorrow being released. So
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. What do you think of Black Audio and all the other side projects that it,
Uh, it's not AFI.
yeah.
AFI has something very special about it. And while I respect an artist's need to branch out and do other things, and I respect that they didn't try to make AFI Black Audio, um, I don't love Black Audio. I do like some of it. I'd say I like the Extremist record they did a little more. That's a little more up my alley from what I like to hear from. Dream Car's cool. I know Davey did that project Dream Car with the No Doubt guys. I like that. I know Jade has a band called Twin Sign that he does with a female singer. I like a good bit of that. It seems cool. Black Audio for some reason I liked the first release a lot, and then it just sort of
Mhm.
fell off for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I was because I knew AFI at the time I think this was 2005, 2006. I was working at Hot Topic and get the extra money and plus I get discounts. And they actually comp you if you go to a concert and you write a report and bring in the ticket stub, they will pay you back the money. So you basically get to go to a free concert if you
Wow.
topic. Yeah, that was probably one of the coolest perks. And but yeah, AFI was selling big. You had the teen girls that just loved Davey for his good looks and his soothing voice and stuff. And then you got the
Hmm.
punks who were like, it's still punk, but I still like it, and blah 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 blah. So when Black Audio came out, I knew that Davey was always influenced by, like 80s goth and stuff like that, where he'd wear shirts of like
Hmm.
using the band
Bauhaus.
and
Hmm.
alien sex fiend and stuff like that. And I was like, I always wonder, because he'll kind of throw little bits into, even with December Underground, there was a few moments where some electronic and sort of industrial bits
Oh yeah.
that were thrown in there, and then I was like, I wonder if he's ever going to do like a thing. And then
Yeah,
August
it
of
was.
2007, boom,
Yep.
Black Video comes out, and I was like, I fucking knew it. Like I was like,
That first track they put out was really good. I can't remember what
Stiff
it was
Kid,
called.
yeah, Stiff
Yeah,
Kid, yeah.
I
And I
do
heard that
remember
on
when
the
that came
radio, and I
out.
was like, and it's an alternative rock radio. For us, it was like 105.7 The Point, where they never would play anything, kind of goth and industrial unless it's Marilyn Manson or Nine Inch Nails. And I was like, what what am I hearing? Like it just blew my mind. And I was like, that's Davey Havoc. And it was just I was like, I gotta get this record. I gotta hear this.
Yeah, I was. Uh, what was that first song? Oh, Between Breaths.
Yeah, Between Breaths is a good one. Yeah.
That was the first one I heard. I remember they put that on their MySpace,
Hmm.
and I was just like, "What the fuck?" And like I said, I really like that first. Was it called Sex Cells? Yeah, I really like that first Black Audio release. But after that, I don't know. I just wasn't. Maybe I was less of a fanboy when they put out the second record, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
maybe when they put out the first one, I was ready to like just be into anything that those guys touched. But yeah, I mean, AFI's they're incredible artists. Jade the guitars, he's an incredible musician.
Amazing work. I mean, everything from production wise, guitar wise. I mean, he did everything. I was like,
Actually, to get back to AFI really quick, AFI for me, like peak AFI for me is Art of Drowning and Sing the Sorrow. Like those are my two favorites. I really love Black Fit Sales. There's a lot of December Underground I like, and as AFI is an artist that's always changed, so I don't have to like what they're doing. I respect what they're doing. I don't have to like it. So for me, it kind of falls off on both sides. Like going, into Black Sales is when they got Jade and they started to really become AFI. And to me, they had like a good, 6, 7 year run there where they were really like kind of had this definitive sound for them. And then I feel like it started to lean in other directions that maybe didn't align with me so much. And it doesn't have to. That's fine.
of course.
And it spent many years like that, and I still kept going and seeing every time they'd come through town. But man, when they put out this record, Bodies, have you really
Mhm.
got into Bodies?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's an incredible album, and I feel like it's really slept on with AFI fans, probably because it's so different. And I feel like if maybe they put that out as a side project, maybe I don't know, but it's just I think that record's incredible, and it gets down some of those avenues that you were talking about, where it's like clearly kind of has this sort of post punk influence, and they sort of would kind of toy with it, but not really. But then on Bodies, it was like they really doubled down on that.
Yeah,
So I'm
absolutely.
I'm excited to see what they do next because
Oh, they're
the
looking
rumor
forward.
is that something new's coming this year.
Been reading about that. Who would you collaborate with as an artist, dead or alive, and who and why? Would it be AFI or would it be a totally separate?
I think I like them too much. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wanted to put some calls in and try to get Johnny and Kenny from Typo Negative to come play
Mhm.
on the new Dead on Sunday record.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it would have been hard to do. It might have just cost some money if they were into it, but I decided maybe the last minute that wasn't probably going to happen. But yeah, I'd love to do something with those guys. Or I think a better question would be instead of collaborate with maybe like bands that I would really like to like go on a tour with. Um, if him got back
Oh,
together,
yes, absolutely.
fucking love him.
I
If
was
yeah, if they got back together, I'd love to be like an opening band on that fucking tour.
I was watching. I guess it was called Epic Latered. It was on Vice, and it was about Bam Margera and how he became obsessed with him, the band him, and then he basically just took on the heartogram, and then it just kind of became this sort of collaborative,
Hmm.
thing. And I always loved him way before I even knew Bam and that whole situation. But god damn, I I love that band. I can't get enough of him for real. So
Oh yeah, great band, great that singer.
great vocal, yeah.
Yeah, Vilvallo. He's a 6 octave range.
It's insane. It's
Hmm.
crazy. And he drinks like a fish, and I still don't know how he can keep his voice so well. Yeah,
Oh, well, he's Finnish. He's drinking
he's
and
finished,
smoking.
right?
It's in his culture. He could just do it. But yeah, but they're a big one for me to if we could tour with touring with AFI would obviously be something I think would align well for Dead on a Sunday.
Absolutely. Two more questions.
Hmm.
One, who are you looking forward most to seeing live at Force Fest, Dark Force Fest?
I'm gonna have to go with. Let me look and see. I'm gonna have to go with the day we play because that's the only day we'll actually be there.
Uh,
Um, the
I
day that we play, I would say, actually, probably Janet Tortures are on the day we play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Around to St. Louis. I can't wait to see them then.
yeah, actually, probably the Janet Tortures because I've never seen them and I heard that it's interesting. I would say the Birthday Massacre because I've never seen them. But I actually might see them this next week because my buddies are running sound for them and they're coming through.
It's awesome. I know. I was talking to Gen Cab, and he was I was letting him know kind of who I had on. We'll kind of talk about, things about the podcast and his music and stuff. And I was letting him know that you were going to come on. And he's like, I knew some of the bands he was touring with. I couldn't remember. I think it was the Boys or Night Boys or something like that.
Night, yeah.
Yeah, Night. That's who it was. Yeah. Yeah. He was telling me about how, you guys were touring together or something like that. And I was like, that's cool. So, but yeah, last question. Sorry, I just kind of dozed off there for a
No,
second.
you're all good.
Last question, and I'll let you go. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me.
If you have one bit of advice for anybody who's an artist
Mm,
or musician or whoever and looks up
mhm.
to music, what's your one bit of advice that you would give them?
Just make the things and do the things that you think that that drive you and that you think are cool and that you love and don't worry about comparisons and don't try to follow trends because that stuff's by the time it's a trend, you already missed that boat. So,
I agree. Well, thank you
yep.
so much, man. I really appreciate your time, dude. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Got Obsession out. Check it, everybody. Check it out on Bandcamp. Check them out at Force Fest and go on Bandcamp. I think a few of your tour dates have been posted on there, and then
Hmm.
of course you got some new ones coming up. So let everybody know about what's coming up when on your social media and everything like that.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, dude.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate your time.